Welcome back to Day Rates, the show where we talk about design
and money.
And money. We got a special guest in Day Rate Studios. Welcome to the stage, Reece Parker. Come on down.
That's our kind of off-brand game show music.
Love it. Love it.
How you going, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all, man. It's good to get you on. Glad you agreed to it because we're just a couple of dirtbags from Australia. I didn't think anyone would reply to our messages.
True. Yeah.
No. Yeah, no worries. I love your guys' show. It's been awesome to watch.
Oh, awesome, man.
It's crazy. Well, you're one of the 10 people that watches it, so we do appreciate it.
Totally.
It's a growing, dedicated audience. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're growing slowly. It's exciting.
Yeah. We had like 27 viewers for probably 2 months or something.
Yeah.
And then our mate Ben gave us a shout out, and that's been like our big spike. So we've just been riding that high ever since. And this is probably the peak it's going to be. We'll do this interview, and then we'll slowly spiral back out, post less frequently, and then this will be it. It'll be interview 2.
Classic.
Alrighty.
Done, man. So how's it been? How's COVID? How's life?
Good. I would say mostly good, despite everything being crazy. Obviously, I think kind of all of us understand that. But we've been lucky. I mean, I've been busy, and we've been healthy, so there's nothing really to complain about outside of like just changes, But I mean, other people are having a way worse time. So I feel bad at complaining at all, kind of, Yeah.
Well, we noticed that you kind of made the Ultimate Studio. Was that pre-COVID, or did that happen mid-COVID?
Yeah. So the end of last year, it actually started because I wanted to get more of a tax break. I wanted to avoid the tax man. So I was just figuring out how to kind of get together kind of a bigger expense that would help me a lot in that area. So this was, like December of 2019. And then, I don't know, it all kind of fell into place. Like, okay, maybe I rent a studio, or maybe I'm kind of in the suburbs, so it isn't necessarily like everywhere you look there's commercial real estate to just like sign the lease or whatever. So I didn't want to drive out an hour every day. Just that sucks. So I don't know. I contacted some builders. I was like, hey, I'm looking to build a studio. Do you have any ideas? And they're like, well, we have a shipping container that we could sell you and then build out. And I was like, okay, let me look into it. Let me do some research. And I guess it's super trendy right now anyway. Like small, tiny houses or whatever is like blowing up on YouTube, and like Netflix has a show, and shipping containers are kind of all the rage. So I was like, that sounds fun. So I designed it, and then it finished right before COVID. Somehow.
Perfect time, man. It seems like you knew COVID was coming the way this all panned out,
I know. Yeah. I don't know. Super lucky. Yeah. The timing was crazy.
Yeah, but it looks really nice in there. I'm surprised you got like a nice couch in there as well. That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I think 9 by 20. So anyway, so it's been nice to have it. I had it all designed, painted it all black, and everybody was worried like, oh, black is it's gonna scare everybody or whatever. I was like, no, I got to do it all black, and it turned out really cool. So
I think the kind of wood detailing and everything, like, it doesn't make it feel too oppressive with the black either. So it looks good. Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I was kind of wondering, like, your dad, is it a Reece only space, or does your family have access to it?
My wife knows the code to get in, so it's like a little
the code.
Outside of that, nobody usually comes in here. I mean, people come to see what's up and check it out, but it doesn't really fit anybody else successfully. I sort of built it out to be that way. So like, there's a chill section and a work section, but I don't know, if somebody wanted to come work with me, that'd be cool, and I'd figure it out. But for now, it only fits me.
I'll take that as an invitation.
Totally.
We can afford the flights. We'll send you out there, mate. It should be good.
Right.
Post-COVID. To go. Is this like in your backyard, like on your property, or is this somewhere else, not in your home?
So we are renting our house currently, and our lease doesn't allow for like a random weird shipping container to be in your yard. So I'm renting it on kind of what I like to call like misfit business island. There's like a construction company to the north of me a little bit, and it's just like on a gravel lot with electricity. It's plugged in and Wi-Fi and whatever, but it's just like random other businesses. Like a tech startup is around here too. So it's been nice because it's like I'm not actually totally isolated. Like I can chat with the folks next door and be like, "Hey, what's up?" Whatever. I've actually had people come and knock on my door and be like, "Is this where the interview is?" Like for other, for the other companies. I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No." So
I'm curious as what it looks like on the outside, because like I mean, you would see a shipping container around there, and you probably would think, "Yeah, it's construction place here for sure."
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly distinct. It's all black on the outside and got like a white door, and it's got like my logo sign on it. I got some hanging signs or whatever. So I guess it looks official enough for people to mistake it.
That's it. We never did that with our office, and we had like a string of homeless people come up all the time, or like people trying to sell artwork, or people looking for like the accountant next door. They just constant parade of humans. So
well, I mean, this is it's kind of the same size as my shoebox apartment anyway. So
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like in Sydney, that would be like $1 million property right there. It's like so much rent and stuff.
So I guess we'll just dive into some more creative questions, I guess.
Cool.
So you're a self-described animator, an animation director and illustrator. How do you kind of manage the time between the two disciplines? And like, is it tough to do like, what are you mainly hired for, animation or illustration? Can you talk a bit on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it evolves over the years. Last year was the first year I was really getting illustration work. I started with just like motion graphics animation stuff, but I realized pretty quickly that it's sort of the lowest on the food chain. It's like editor, animator, illustrator, art director, which is fine. I mean, that doesn't really have any major effects, but I wanted to be more of an artist, I guess, just for my own ego. So I started drawing a lot more and just posting on Instagram and stuff. And then, I don't know, fake it till you make it's kind of how I'd done my whole career. So eventually I started getting more illustration jobs. And then last year, I guess I kind of came into my own in terms of illustration and got hired maybe 68% illustration, 40% animation. And these days it's like, if I'm being hired to animate, I'm also directing animation. So it's been like, probably 50% directing and animating, but those are like merged. So I'll have a team underneath me and I might be animating some shots, but mostly I'm directing them in their shots. And illustration too, the other half, I don't know. And sometimes it all comes together. Like I illustrate the job, bring on the team, then direct them as I maybe tackle some shots or whatever. Yeah, so it's all kind of very streamlined, even though it very much is like 3 different disciplines. I sort of treat it all as like one connected, I don't know, thing that I like to do. It's hard. It's so weird. Yeah. Trying to
do you still enjoy like dropping keyframes and doing the animation side, or does that feel kind of, is there like tension when you have to go do that now when you're used to directing and illustrating a bit more?
It's a good question. I think I love it when like I get a shot I'm excited about, but that's just not always the case. I mean, if you're brought on as solely animating and it's like you're touching a bunch of different illustrator designs, I mean, you're not going to run into the best illustrator in the industry every single time you're assigned a shot. So it's like, depending on the shot and depending on the direction and who I'm working with, like I can still be really stoked and excited and whatever. Or like if I'm animating my own thing, I still love animating, but I guess it's less of like blind optimism, you know, jumping into every project of like, I'm going to do the best job ever or whatever. It's like, it's more job to job type of a thing.
Fair.
Oh, look, our souls have been crushed. We do a lot of stuff that's like, you know, we'll churn out a lot of animation that might not be super high level stuff, not ultra creative, but that's kind of the stage we're at, is like for our personal projects. We like to dive more into the art side of things. And then for the client stuff, it seems like we do a lot of stuff that just, it's got to get churned out. That's it. Like you're doing it.
Yeah, totally. I hear you.
I noticed before you said fake it till you make it. And I'm just wondering, I'm curious, were you like trained in animation and design at all? Or were you one of those guys that kind of just had a crack version of Photoshop and YouTube the shit out of it?
Yeah, so early on, my dad's like super tech forward. So we had Flash growing up, like the legitimate licensed version. And I was like 12. And my brother was into it too. So we would do like little Flash cartoons. Until like I started liking girls or whatever, and so I quit animation. And I was into skateboarding for a long time, but I had those roots already. So I mean, jumping back into like cell animation and all that, I picked it up super quickly. But I never had any like formal training. Mostly just observing and like learning through just watching what's around type of a thing. Drawing I always did. I used to do photorealist like graphite illustrations. Wow. I feel like that's a similar thing in a way, as like you're just looking at a photo and then trying to replicate exactly what you see. And animation's kind of similar, you know? So I don't know. The drawing I was always like, I never gave it up. So like in school, math tests and stuff, like I'd fail the math test and flip it over and draw something on the back. And like my teacher would hang that up on the wall, even though the test, even though like I failed or whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Supportive teachers, you know, I remember just getting loads of trouble in high school, you know, the same thing. Not learning the actual subject.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So kind of like I guess leading on to your current style and everything, I was looking at some of your older reels and I noticed that it's moved a bit from that flat graphic look, to the kind of, I guess you have more of a handmade quality to it now. Was that something that you've always been drawn to and the work wasn't there at the start, or has that been like a recent thing that's just started developing in the last few years?
That's a good way to word that question. At the beginning, so my roots are just hand drawn, like I just said, but at the beginning, I didn't know any of this was even a career. So when I first like ran into the motion graphics industry, I like face planted into it. And I don't know if you know who Seth Eckert is. He's like he runs the Furrow, the studio.
Yeah, right.
He was one of the first dudes that the work that I saw was some of his stuff. And he's like super vectory, very clean, very 60 FPS and like smooth transitions and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like literally one of my only influences. So I fell in love with that. And I thought that was all that there was. Yeah. So I just learned that. And I'm so glad I did, because even though like my personality is more suited towards 12 FPS, hand drawn, kind of sketchy, I also have those roots of like traditional After Effects, motion graphics, easy ease, and like can do all of that too. So I feel like the evolution like really helped me. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that was quite similar to us. Like I remember when I started this, I looked at like Cub Studio and a few places like that, and they really stuck in my mind. And that was my little, like, I didn't even know motion graphics was a thing. So that's what I really got into. And then same thing over the years, you're like, oh, you don't have to have everything at 24 FPS. And you can do things that aren't like done in Illustrator. And it's just such like a mind-blowing experience.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely the same. Like, that's funny that as your career goes on, you get more references and then your style changes as a result. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like we're leaning towards a lot more kind of, we're trying to get into like 3D realism and that sort of thing at the moment. But I mean, still our bread and butter to this day is still just like, 24 FPS vector-based animations. Like we can knock those out so easy, and it's a great money maker. So I'm very glad that's how we learned.
We keep telling clients, like, you sure you don't want a minimal chair spinning in like an abstract room? And they're like, nah, we don't want it. We just want like the little coin to flip up and do a flip. And we're like, oh yeah, cool, we'll do it.
Yeah, I've done plenty of coin flips as well.
Yeah,
it's the bread and butter of the industry.
Well, you've done like a bunch of work for like some huge clients like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and IBM. So like, what's the kind of process working on projects for clients at that scale? Like, we've never really had huge jobs like that, so we don't really understand the process there. Is there like a million rounds of edits, or like, does it go through like a massive pipeline of people and shit? Or
I don't
know how much you're allowed to talk about, but
no, I don't think it's a secret. I think there's varying level of involvement, and that's from like the big tech side and also from my side. So I've had big tech jobs through like an agency, which is like I'm directing and kind of running it. And I've also had big tech jobs through like a well-known studios. So it's like I'm further down on the list and I'm animating a few shots. So I really don't even understand the process. But when I've run it myself, it's certainly like, I think the key is being way more structured than you would normally. Because every little thing you can get hung up on, and then that's going to cost you another week, and then another week, and then another week of like revisions. So if you have these things outlined and structured and like it's in a contract, it's easier to go back and like not screw yourself over from the beginning, you know? Because there's a lot of littler clients that are like, oh man, it's so cool, I love it, you know, thanks. And it's like super lax and whatever. And I love working that way, but with big, I mean, they have investors and, you know, chair of board of review and CEOs and heads of departments that are above other departments. And it's like, it's got to go through these people. And a lot of times it doesn't hit them till you're already 95% done of animation. Then somebody sees it, you know, and then they're like, wait a minute, I didn't like the color of this whole thing throughout the entire thing.
Classic.
Yeah.
So too, like we don't know how to. We'll say, oh, there's like 3 rounds of edits at this part of the project, and then they'll do 3 rounds of edits, and then be like, all right, we're going to send it to compliance now. We're like, what? This is it. You got the project. So
right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Also, we don't do a whole lot of sorry to cut you off. We don't do a whole lot of frame by frame animation. So I'd assume getting some edits like on at the very end like that would fuck the whole thing up. Like if something's not moving a certain way, that's why I think, Yeah, there was a crazy one I directed last year, and I won't say the client because I don't want to speak poorly of anybody, but it finished, it delivered, everybody was happy, and then it hit a certain department in the client, and we had to redo essentially an entire video. Oh my god!
Because there was something in the branding that we had missed that we weren't allowed to do, but we were doing it in the video, something really niche and specific. So that was really interesting. But I mean, I got paid, so it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a little bit of a bummer, but just, you know, you learn your lessons. Just be careful when you're navigating huge tech. Because weird stuff like that can totally happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. I guess that leads me on to like when I just noticed the piece you were involved with MailChimp, like the recent one that they did. And I noticed there was like a whole bunch of different like amazing illustrators and animators involved in that one.
Yes.
And I guess I'm kind of just curious on the process when you're collaborating with all these other like amazing creatives and stuff. Like, how does that kind of work? Do you guys like got your own Slack channel and you're bouncing ideas off each other, or like you just go away and do your bit and then just chuck it in at the end? Like,
that's pretty much exactly what it is. So I like, if I'm directing a job, it's rarely ever do I have the budget or the manpower to like bring on people that are way better than me, like 6 of them, and just throw them in a room and say, figure it out. But that's it was a buck job. So I mean, they have all the money in the world, and they're the best ever. So yeah, they essentially got like some of the absolute best dudes in the industry, and then just put them on Slack and like gave them a very, 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 very like light creative brief. Like, here's kind of what we're going for. And then there was like 2 or 3 weeks of like just sketching and then just sending it to Slack. Like, how's this? Or how about this? Or maybe this. And I think they were writing the script at the same time. So it was like everything was changing and fluid. And I was kind of naive to this type of process because I'm used to it being a little bit more laid out. And so I'd ask questions like, oh, are they looking for a specific amount of drawings or like a blah, blah, blah? And then I would always get from the directors like, they'll never be that prescriptive ever. So like, we're just doing whatever we're doing. And then who knows? I'm actually kind of surprised it like completed, but it ended up like super rad. So it was a really interesting job, and I learned a lot from that process. Definitely. There was a lot of trust. Yeah.
Well, looking back on that, would you prefer to work like that on these collaborative projects, or do you still lean towards more structured stuff?
It just depends on what role I'm playing. I mean, if I'm being brought on, I love being trusted and thrown into a pit with like other talented people. I think it makes me want to up my game, and probably the same for other people. But But I also totally understand a client's tendency to like not do that, you know, to like, I'm a little bit worried, so we're going to have to assign schedules or whatever, or assign specific, I don't know, just be more structured. Sorry, can you guys hear that? Somebody's
It's all good.
No, it's all right.
Authentic.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I think I like it depending on context. I mean, if I'm directing, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that yet. I feel like you have to get to a certain level and a certain amount of, like, Buck has all the respect in the industry, so it's like they can afford to do kind of anything, and they know how to do. I'm sure they've done it all. So I'm rambling. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like our process, because there's only like a few of us, but we're even just with ourselves so structured because that's just the way we know we can hit those kind of small deadlines we have. But
yeah,
crazy Buck has the resources, and then I assume maybe the timeline on these projects to actually give people a chance to think about what they're going to do.
Yeah,
that's a luxury.
Yeah, it was luxury. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah. Speaking of time in general too, I've become a father recently, and I noticed from your Instagram that you do personal projects, you're doing these big name kind of brand projects, and you got time to skateboard. Like, how does that happen? What's the week like? Is it insane? Like, when do you find time for everything?
Yeah. Congrats, by the way, on the baby. We just had a new one too.
Congrats to you.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I'm trying to be more structured. So there's late nights. There's like kind of late nights, and then there's like the late nights where it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. I think frequently it's like pushing to 7, 8 in the evening. But I want to see my family. So I've been trying to like wake up at 6 and get in and do stuff before anyone's up type of a thing. And then just, I don't know. It used to be where it was like, I'll just go all night every day of the week. But with 2 kids, it's hard. I mean, I'm sure you're kind of getting that picture.
I had this phase when my son first turned up. I was working like nights, so I'd do all the baby stuff, and then I'd kind of sit down at my desk at 9, and I'd work till like 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah, I was doing that like 3 or 4 days a week. But I think Joel can attest that I became like a crazy person. Like, like eyes were just bloodshot all the time. Probably wasn't making sense in half of the shit I was like emailing to you. So yeah. It was good for a bit, but definitely unsustainable. So I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with the skateboarding thing, that's been a personal, like, I need to start exercising or I'm gonna die in 5 years. So I'll do like Saturdays. I just schedule them like Saturday mornings. I go on the skateboarding mission or whatever, and that's the only time we've been able to make it work. But it's been good to have that. Again, I think it's structure when you have kids, because otherwise you don't make anything work.
True. Yeah, lots of, like, I used to go to the gym fairly frequently, and then COVID hit and I had a kid. So I'm just like, fuck, my exercise is just completely gone. But something like skating's good. You can still get out there and do stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, it works just because I love it, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like exercise. Yeah. And then, like, for me, I guess having kids has made me really look down the barrel of middle age. Like, I feel it's happening to me in real time now. And I'm kind of curious for yourself, like, have you kind of come to terms with that? And what do you want to achieve over the next few decades before you retire and do kickflips full time?
Man, yeah. I don't want to sound silly because, like, I just turned 26. So I don't know that I've hit middle age yet.
Young,
but I understand what you're saying. Like, I'll look at my wife and just feel like, we're old. How did we get so old? Even though we're not. But it's just that I think it's phases in life rather than how old you are. Like, we also just bought a house and like doing grown-up stuff, and we'll just look at each other and be like, being a grown-up sucks. Like, there's so much red tape, and buying a house is crazy. So I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I definitely think it's attached to just kind of the phase you are in life rather than your age. Maybe that sounds silly or naive. I don't know.
Yeah.
In terms of, go ahead. Sorry.
I'd say for like, and then like creatively, I don't know. For me, having a kid's kind of put time pressure on things. Like, I realize there's not an infinite amount of time, and I already see like, oh, he's a new generation now coming up, so I kind of got to get stuff done if I want it to happen. Like, is there do you have kind of specific goals in your career that you really want to hit, or is it kind of just you're going down the path and seeing where it takes you?
Yeah, I think so 2019, I like came out swinging. I was like, I'm working all the time. We just had I guess my son was like still young and our first kid. And I was like, I want to make more money. I want to do cooler projects. I want to be respected. I want to whatever. And I had really, 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 really ambitious goals and just worked all the time. And I hit kind of all of them. So this year, I feel like it's been a little bit more like kind of trying to take it back and think about the future more. Like, what do I actually want to do? And it's kind of an interesting year because obviously COVID and everything. So I feel sort of lost anyway, just in terms of the world. And then having like less clear goals. I'd say that's been a bit of a challenge this year. The obvious is like, oh, I'll set up a studio and I'll have employees and whatever. And I like the idea of doing that, but I'm not necessarily in a rush to do it. So yeah.
I'd say enjoy your creative time now too, because like we're on a little studio, but at one point there was like 7 of us or something. And it was not that it was like organized top tier designers, like these were kind of like mates. We were always trying to make it work. But I'd say for me, it was such a shift from I'm doing the work to now it's like my life is literally emails, invoices, and client meetings. And I burnt out on that big time. Joel also saw that in real time.
Oh yeah.
Lost a bit of my hairline, fucking just stressing out and all that kind of shit. And then I'm like, that's it. We got to change it. So it's kind of just us just doing the creative stuff. And like, I love that. So, if you can take a bit of time and enjoy it, I'd say enjoy it.
I think that's a cool model though. It's cool to like, I mean, at least you tried it and you kind of got an idea of what it would be like. And then you're like, wait a minute, I think probably skip. Cause like I've thought about maybe I do it with a buddy and we do like kind of a two-man studio or whatever. And like just try and tackle everything. But to your point earlier, I've noticed even just taking on more directing work versus only being an animator, like half of every single day is emailing and calls. And then the other half is like trying to catch up on work. And it is a little bit frustrating sometimes. And that's why I'm trying to be like, well, what if I get up way earlier and just tackle a bunch of work before everybody's even up?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out too.
It's a hard one. It's like the industry takes these ultra creative people and then it can turn them into like facilitators and kind of these high level admin roles. And it's like funny, like, I'm sure you're capable of rising to the challenge, but it's just a whole different skill set that I think a lot of us don't think about until you're doing it. So,
absolutely. Fully agree with you.
Yeah, going back to like COVID, like we talked a bit about it before, how it's like just how your thoughts on it and how it's changed kind of life. But like specifically, has it changed like how you work at all?
Good question. No, and I would say because I got so lucky that my my office finished right before it hit. And so that really allowed me to escape every day and just work how I usually work. I would say if I was at home, things would be different, like most people, I would say right now. I don't know. I got lucky. So I don't think it has changed how I work. And I've been super busy, equal to last year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Lucky.
Yeah, same kind of thing happened to us. We were kind of worried about how it was going to like affect business and stuff. But if anything, I mean, we've lost some kind of jobs that we usually get. We've gained more on the other side. So it's kind of evened itself out.
We lost the kind of conference work, but then there seems to be a lot of people trying to talk to their customers online a lot more. So we've been taking on that work. But it's funny, like Joel and I feel like COVID for us has been more, it's like an existential thing. Like we look at it and we're like, what are we building the studio for? And why are we taking these jobs? And like, what are we doing? And I feel like we have that discussion once a week. That's how it's really changed our life. Is just, I don't know, being kind of an existential spiral and then thinking about it and trying to readjust. But
I watched that episode of Day Rates where you guys were walking through, I think Miles like put together a business plan or something. It was like, let's get serious. And I thought it was really cool. I was like, I need to do that for my business and like, actually put together some real goals and like a spreadsheet and whatever. So that's cool.
Yeah. it's funny, like now we made that and we really did stick to it for a little bit and that was great, but I feel like we've drifted off it. And so it's like you make these things, they look really nice and you get excited about it. And now it's like, all right, we need to set up a way to like, check it monthly and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
All that like adult stuff, you have to be organized. It's a pain in the ass.
Just keep setting further goals as well as shit changes. Like,
True.
That makes sense. Yeah,
we set that goal too, and then we started changing our style a bit and doing a bit more 3D and doing other stuff, and it's kind of changed our influences and what we want to achieve. So, got to revisit it again, you know.
I saw there's one on your site. Maybe it's recent, maybe it isn't, but it's like a studio promo, but it's super slick 3D, like camera moves and like simple spinning. I love it. I love that.
Thanks, dude. It's funny because that was like some early 3D tests, and now we're working on another piece, which we're going to hopefully release towards the end of next week. Not sure, depending when we release this, but yeah, now it's like I look at all those renders and I'm like, complete garbage. I can't wait till we finish the next stuff and get that. But I'm sure you know that feeling too. You finish the next thing, you're like, I want to delete my whole portfolio and just put this up there.
Every single time that happens. Seriously.
Yeah, because Miles is trying to get me on the 3D now, which I'm starting to do. So he set me up with a PC here instead of the Mac now. So I guess that kind of leads into a couple of quick questions for you. What are your like go-to tools and like what's your favorite at the moment?
So I'm on a iMac Pro. I think it's like one of the lower tier versions because I don't do 3D, so I didn't necessarily need the higher one. Mm-hmm. But I liked it because it was like space gray and slick. I don't know. I also have a Cintiq Pro 24-inch, and that acts as a second monitor. So I have it on like an ergo arm, and I can just go. And that's where I do all my drawing and cell and stuff. Let's see. I also have an iPad Pro. That's more like couch stuff or at home drawing or whatever.
Yeah. But in terms of like a rough animator and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I don't. I'm so attached. I'm a desktop guy through and through. So like, I like to have a workstation that is set up, and that's where I work. So it's hard for me to get into all of the iPad stuff, but I really, really like Procreate. Outside of that, I don't really bother with any of the other animation stuff, just because if I want to do something right, I want to do it right, and I'll just go to my desktop and do it. That's kind of how I feel. I don't know. Maybe the world is moving in that direction anyway. So
I'm the same. I notice anytime I sit down with the iPad, I make pure trash, and I'm like, all right, I got to go back in front of a computer because I can't do it.
Yeah, totally.
I guess also, Miles, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. This is one I feel like if we're going to start doing interviews, it'd be great to get kind of like an industry overview of this. But do you have any advice for young designers starting out, or if you were looking at yourself at the start of your career, what advice would you give yourself?
Good question. Young designers, I would say focus on yourself and your portfolio and your work ethic and like your personality before you just run out there and like get desperate and send a bunch of emails. I mean, that part of it is important, but I think you need to be at a certain level in your development before you're ready to be hired. And that's not always easy to recognize, especially if you're like trying to do it to ourselves. And I see a lot of that, just not ready yet, but not like they're the worst ever. I mean, they just need more hours. And the reality is it's a lot of hours before it's like, I always say too, like, look at those that you look up to. So all of the people that are inspiring you, and how do you compare realistically to their work? And if you're way far off, then it's like, I got a lot of work to do. And then that doesn't mean you're not hireable as is, but that also means just because you are getting hired doesn't mean you're any good. So like keep pushing and keep setting personal goals no matter what. I think an actionable way to do that is like personal work is a must. That's how I got any work at all. My first freelance job just came from personal work. I never worked at a studio. I never went to college. I never had an internship. It was all from Instagram loops. And I just spent 16 hours a day just hammering on like little stupid loops. And then I got a job, and I sucked at the job. I didn't know how to do anything, but they walked me through it, and you learn, you absorb, and you learn and you absorb. I don't know. I could go on all day, but I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. I think I made every one of those mistakes. I definitely shot the emails out first. Terrible portfolio. So much trash in my history, professional history. So, you know, I think it's great advice.
Yeah, totally.
All right, one more question for you, and then we can start wrapping things up. But do you have any predictions for what's going to happen to the future of our industry over the next few years?
I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was they were talking about some AI that could like create an original piece of music, and you can license it, and it takes like 5 seconds, and it was like pretty good. And that was a little bit scary because I think the saying is like creativity will be the last thing to go to automation. But the reality is that may not actually be true. We just think we're special, but we may not be. So far down the line, it may be that we're kind of all out of a job, except for like the stuff that's going to take like really intimate physical movement. So like I'm thinking about construction, like drilling in a screw and whatever. I think that stuff is harder to be automated because you need to imitate a person, whereas creativity is like all from the brain. So you can imitate a brain a lot faster than you can like a person.
That's a good point.
But that's a whole, I didn't mean to dive into that. I mean, for the immediate future, it's looking good. I mean, we're getting a lot of work. Remote work is up, which is good for us because we're just artists in our closets or whatever. Live action is starting to be like animation, starting to be more comparable to live action, I think, and more of an option, which is good too. I see everybody that I talk to, I see them all slammed. They're all busy. So like the very immediate future, I think, is looking good. The economy, this is more of a US thing. I have no idea. The election, I have no idea. So we'll see what happens. But outside
enjoy
of
everything. Enjoy everything up until November, and then just see what reality is. You know? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, it's been great chat. I'm so glad you were able to join us.
Yeah. I think, it went pretty good. We didn't, knock our laptops over or anything. I didn't disconnect a microphone, I don't think. So,
I could export the screen recording and it could all crash and burn. I don't know, man.
I have no idea if this one's going to work either.
Totally. No, thanks for having me, guys. It was a blast chatting. Keep doing what you're doing. It's cool. I love the YouTube channel, the podcast, everything. The studio.
Man. Appreciate it.
Tell your friends. We'll try to get our viewership up to like 29 regular viewers or something,
Yeah.
So, maybe we'll have in the future, at the end of every episode, we have a Reese's Corner, and then we call you. You give us your final thoughts.
Just ruin your schedule.
Perfect.
Never say yes to this.
That sounds good.
All right. Thanks for the chat, dude. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one. Later.
Yeah, man. Catch up.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Day Rates. That was another great interview that we've done. We're going to try and do more of these. Reece was kind enough to oblige and let us do that. He seems like a chill dude. Went smoothly. Go follow his shit at Reece Parker Co on Instagram, and also at Reece Parker for him doing sick varials and tray flips and shit.
You're going to want to see those kickflips, people. Again and again.
Again. Any final thoughts, Miles?
Shock revelations. He's 26, dude. He's so young. He's a young gun. He can do anything he wants in this world,
Dude, right? Crazy.
We're a couple of old, crazy bones over here.
Yeah, it's like, I just bought a house, did all this shit, and like you own property and shit, and I'm just like, I'm 28, I have done none of those things.
Yeah, we'll just like comp in a propeller hat on you for the whole interview. And you're like a giant lollipop that keeps coming up into frame, and you just like.
To be fair though, me and Reece were both wearing beanies, so we're basically bros. Yeah, and like you're just like this weird guy that was just there for some reason. I don't know why you were there, but.
And I sold my place. I couldn't handle all that fucking paperwork either. I want to get the fuck out of that shit. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, loyal audience. And, just keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep it going.
Do it.
Yeah. Do it, live it, love it. The day rates.
We should probably end with our classic catchphrase, Miles.
If someone comes at you, you lean in, you step up, all right?
That's what we say. That's
Design.
what we always say.
That's what I'm saying. School. All right.
Peace out.
Peace.
And cut.
Pretty well. All right. And then this is the real outro where we're like, that was a fake outro. Like, thanks for the real day ratings. Watching the second outro.
Lordz are sticking around.
Yeah, dude. You know we always do a second outro, a little hidden outro right now. All right? Yeah.
Wait, why is it that... Let's talk about pingers for a sec.